All right, so we've got some breaking news about Microsoft and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You know how we've been watching companies kind of cautiously tiptoeing around cryptocurrency?
Mm-hmm.
Well, things just got really interesting at Microsoft's recent shareholder meeting.
Yeah, for sure. It
Yeah.
definitely throws a wrench in that whole narrative of inevitable, corporate crypto adoption.
Right.
Microsoft shareholders actually voted down a proposal
Wow.
that would have required the company to explore holding Bitcoin on its balance sheet.
And here's what's really fascinating about this.
Yeah,
It wasn't just from some random shareholder.
right.
This was championed by none other than Michael Saylor,
Oh, wow.
the Bitcoin evangelist himself,
Mm-hmm.
former CEO of MicroStrategy,
Right.
the company famous for going all in on Bitcoin.
Exactly. He even
Yeah.
gave a pre-recorded presentation at the meeting,
Really?
making a passionate case for Bitcoin.
Wow.
He did not hold back.
Oh, wow.
Called it the greatest digital transformation of the 21st century and a revolutionary advance in capital preservation.
Okay.
He even went so far as to claim that holding Bitcoin is safer than holding traditional bonds
Right. Yeah.
due to what he called an absence of counterparty risk.
So we've got Saylor, who's built his reputation
Yeah.
and arguably his whole company on Bitcoin,
Uh-huh.
making a direct appeal to Microsoft shareholders.
Right.
So what was their reasoning for pushing back so hard?
Well, the board actively urged shareholders to reject the proposal,
Mm.
arguing that they already carefully evaluate all potential investment opportunities,
Mhm.
including Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They never explicitly stated their concerns, but you
Yeah.
can speculate that the notorious volatility of Bitcoin might have played a role.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's price swings can be pretty wild.
Oh, for sure.
And for a company as established as Microsoft,
Mm.
taking on that kind of risk
Mm.
might not be worth it.
Yeah.
At least not yet.
Not yet, exactly. It's worth noting that Saylor did present some pretty eye-catching numbers during his pitch.
Oh, really?
He highlighted Bitcoin's performance,
Okay.
claiming it's been outperforming Microsoft's own stock by a factor of 10 annually.
Wow.
He boldly stated, and I quote, "It makes a lot more sense to buy Bitcoin than to buy your own stock back or to hold Bitcoin rather than holding bonds."
So basically, he's saying Microsoft is missing out on huge potential gains by sticking with traditional investments.
Yeah.
That's a pretty provocative claim to make in front of a room full of Microsoft shareholders.
Uh-huh.
But even with that, the board still held firm.
It seems they're not convinced, or at least not ready to make such a bold move.
Yeah.
Their rejection raises some important questions.
Like what?
Does this signal a broader reluctance from big tech to embrace Bitcoin?
Hmm.
Or is it a case of Microsoft simply being more cautious and strategic than some of the other early adopters?
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
This whole situation highlights the tension between the old guard of finance and this new decentralized world of cryptocurrency.
Right.
On one hand, you have Saylor and other Bitcoin enthusiasts who see it as the future of money.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have these massive corporations like Microsoft who are approaching it with much more caution.
It's like they're standing at a crossroads trying to decide which path to take.
Right.
Do they stick with what they know, or do they embrace this new and potentially revolutionary technology?
And the decision they make could have huge implications,
Yeah.
not just for their own business, but for the entire financial landscape.
Yeah. It's almost a philosophical debate at this point.
Right.
What does it mean for a company,
Yeah.
especially a tech giant like Microsoft,
Uh-huh.
to embrace something like Bitcoin?
Right.
It challenges their existing systems and potentially even their understanding of value.
And you have to wonder, if a company like Microsoft is hesitant,
Right.
what signal does that send to other companies who are considering dipping their toes into the crypto waters?
It definitely adds a layer of complexity.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the companies that have already taken the plunge.
Yeah.
Tesla, Square, MicroStrategy,
Right.
even smaller players.
Yeah.
They're making a bet on a future where Bitcoin plays a significant role in the global economy.
Hmm.
But Microsoft's decision to hold back
Yeah.
could introduce a sense of doubt for others.
I guess it goes back to that risk versus reward calculation.
Absolutely.
These companies that have embraced Bitcoin are essentially saying,
Mm-hmm.
we're willing to take a chance on this new technology, even if it's volatile.
Right.
But for a company like Microsoft,
Yeah.
the stakes are even higher.
They have a lot more to lose, and their shareholders might not be as comfortable with that level of risk. It's
Right.
like they're weighing the potential upside of getting in early on a transformative technology,
Yeah.
against the potential downside of a major market correction.
But even with those concerns, they can't completely ignore the potential of Bitcoin.
No, they can't.
I mean, Saylor's presentation wasn't just hype.
Right.
He backed up his claims with data,
Yeah.
showing how Bitcoin has been outperforming traditional assets.
Absolutely, and that's the dilemma.
Right.
If Bitcoin continues on this trajectory,
Yeah.
companies that chose to wait on the sidelines could find themselves at a disadvantage.
Mm.
They might miss out on significant gains and potentially even lose ground to competitors who are more willing to embrace the change.
So what do you think happens next?
That's a great question.
Do you think this Microsoft vote will have a chilling effect on corporate Bitcoin adoption, or will other companies see it as an opportunity to get ahead of the curve?
It's hard to predict with certainty.
Yeah.
I think we'll continue to see a mix of approaches.
Okay.
Some companies will be emboldened by Microsoft's hesitation,
Yeah.
seeing it as a chance to differentiate themselves and potentially gain a competitive edge.
Right.
Others, however, might interpret it as a sign of caution,
Yeah.
prompting them to take a more wait-and-see approach.
And of course, a lot will depend on how the regulatory landscape evolves.
For sure.
If governments start to embrace and regulate Bitcoin in a clear and consistent way, that could remove some of the uncertainty and encourage more companies to jump on board.
Right, and let's not forget the technology itself.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is still evolving, and there are ongoing debates about its scalability, energy consumption, and other technical challenges. How those issues are addressed could also influence corporate adoption.
So basically, there are a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts.
The future of corporate Bitcoin adoption is still very much in flux.
For sure.
And this Microsoft vote is just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. But it's a significant piece, and it will be fascinating to see how it influences the decisions of other companies in the months and years to come.
Yeah, it really makes you think about the ripple effects this could have,
Yeah.
even beyond the corporate world. If companies like Microsoft are hesitant to embrace Bitcoin,
Right.
does that impact its potential as a mainstream currency?
That's a really interesting question. You could argue that widespread corporate adoption would lend legitimacy to Bitcoin and potentially even accelerate its integration into everyday transactions.
Right.
However,
Yeah.
even without that full-scale corporate buy-in, Bitcoin continues to evolve and gain traction in other ways.
That's true. We're seeing more and more individual investors.
Yeah.
Even entire countries taking Bitcoin seriously. El Salvador, for example, made Bitcoin legal tender a couple of years ago.
Right.
So it's not like Bitcoin's future hinges solely on what companies like Microsoft decide.
Exactly. The decentralized nature of Bitcoin is actually one of its strengths.
Right.
It's not controlled by any single entity, which means it can't be easily manipulated or shut down.
Right.
That independence is appealing to a lot of people, especially those who distrust traditional financial institutions.
And that brings up another point. Bitcoin is often seen as a hedge against inflation.
For sure.
With so much economic uncertainty in the world.
Yeah.
It's no surprise that people are looking for alternative ways to protect their wealth.
Right. Bitcoin's limited supply. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins in existence.
Yeah.
Is often cited as a reason for its potential as a store of value.
Right.
It's like digital gold in a way.
But of course, with any investment, there are risks.
Oh, absolutely.
Bitcoin's volatility is still a major concern. And as we've seen, even companies like Microsoft aren't immune to those worries.
It's important for anyone considering investing in Bitcoin to do their research, understand the risks, and only invest what they can afford to lose.
So ultimately, this Microsoft vote is just one chapter in a much larger story.
Right.
The future of Bitcoin and its role in the global economy is still being written.
And that's what makes it so fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
This is a story with twists and turns, and it's far from over. This episode just shows how the decisions made today by companies and individuals alike are shaping the financial landscape of tomorrow.
Exactly. So to wrap things up, if you had been a Microsoft shareholder, how would you have voted on this proposal?
Yeah.
It's a question worth pondering.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll catch you next time.